Hey NAI football fans, Corey Thorpe here with another edition of the NAIFBall Podcast, powered by AdCraft USA, your custom apparel, merch, and uniform experts. Our friends at AdCraft have been with us for many years now. They've run web stores for us multiple times. These guys are NAI fans and family who are experts in the apparel and merchandise world. AdCraft allows you to take the hassle out of ordering. Let their knowledgeable design and customer service staff handle everything from hosting the store online, shipping the product, and helping your customers so you can get back to the game. Find them online at adcraftusa.com. All right, NAI football fans, this is Corey Thorpe back with another edition of the NAIF Ball Podcast, presented by and powered by AdCraft Custom Apparel and merch. Give them a holler. You heard the ad read tonight. We've got Brad Griffin from Southwestern, the Moundbuilders, getting back into the playoffs for the second consecutive season. Coach, how are you doing this evening? How you doing this evening, Coach?
Good. I kind of lost you there for a little bit, but I think we're good now.
Sweet. Very good. Well, Coach, it was another interesting season in the KCAC. I remember when John and I started this back in 2018-ish. The KCAC was effectively Kansas Wesleyan in the field. That is no longer the case in the KCAC, where Bethel pops up and starts really getting their game face on. Y'all do the same. Avila does the same now. McPherson is terrorizing people and making life difficult. And it won't be long before Terry Harrison has friends going. Talk to me about the development there in the KCAC and what that means for y'all's conference as a whole.
Yeah, no question. From top to bottom, I mean, there's every week it's a tough game. Got great coaches in our conference, and when I got here in 15, it's really night and day different as far as the competition throughout the league. I came from the mid states, and we had played a couple of the KCAC schools, and quite frankly, it was pretty ugly as far as the end result. And I would say it's like I said, it's a complete turnaround within the league. I think the big thing, we're more competitive nationally with scholarshiping, and so that's made a big difference for us. Us personally at Southwestern, but I know those schools that you're talking about are doing the same thing as far as being able to be competitive and get kids to come to their programs. And you're right. Like in 18, I mean, Kansas Wesleyan did an unbelievable job of not only winning a lot of games with our conference, but did a great job representing our conference nationally and won a few games and made it fairly deep in the playoffs. And and we've been fortunate the last couple of years to get in, not necessarily represent deep in the playoffs like we would like, but and went to Marion and was very competitive a year ago, and had a chance to win that game leading in the fourth quarter. And unfortunately, we're just kind of banged up like this last year, going to go play Benedictine. But anyhow, Bethel's been great. Obviously, with Coach Harrison going to Friends, like you said, they're going to be really, really good here now. It won't take him long. I mean, it didn't take him long at Bethel. Be interesting to see what happens at Avila with Coach leaving there, and Max on the rise. You're correct for sure. Obviously, K-Dub's going to be good every year, and and we got Evangel coming in over from the Heart, and they'll automatically be. I mean, like they were an 8-3 team last year in the Heart, and so they'll jump in and be. I would imagine on the top end of things in our conference, and so no, it's been good. I mean, you got to show up every week, and it's good football. It really is, and I think we've done a great job playing outside the conference at times. It's not a ton, but the times that we have just within our conference, I think we've done a great job of competing nationally. So it's definitely it'll be interesting to see what happens again this next year.
It really will. Last season, you got off to a really fast start. You start off at Ottawa versus Bethany and at St. Mary, and you're feeling fairly good about yourself at 3-0, and then you get this a stretch of toughies the next three, where you win by 3 against Avila, you win by 1 against McPherson, and then you drop an 8-point game to Bethel in what was just an absolutely phenomenal game. Talk to me about your team bouncing back from those close wins and that loss to take it down the home stretch and ultimately earn a playoff bid.
Yeah, there was that. You're right. There was that tough stretch of games. The Avila game could have went either way. Honestly, the MAC game could have went either way. MAC. I don't know how many 1 or 2 3-point games they had. Coach Fiskus has done an unbelievable job there, getting those guys in a position to win, and then obviously Bethel. Coach Stokes has done a great job with that team as far as basically changing offenses and then kind of taking guys that were there to be offensively on a triple option type of scheme, but they're a good football team. They probably they should have been in the playoffs. I mean, they were a playoff team, no question. Hopefully we see a change coming down the road with maybe adding or expanding the playoffs. We'll see what after the national convention here this next weekend what that looks like. But for our team to make it through that stretch, and our thing all year was we were really injured. We played 3 different quarterbacks. We were out our All-American receiver all year. Really, our Andre Jones was a kid that was, if Keyshawn Jones is not on the team, he's your one, and he's out. He gets hurt in the St. Mary's game, and he's out the rest of the year. And then Zion Kenner gets hurt in the Bethel game, and then Luke got hurt after the Ottawa game. Right at the beginning of the year, Luke Barnes. So, Brad has been a great player for us, and he was kind of banged up all year, but he, was able to, step up and make some plays for us. But anyhow, I mean, ultimately it was just next man up mentality. And I think for the most part, we've done a good job of recruiting to have depth. And, that's what got us through the stretch is our depth. A guy like Josh Edson be able to step up and make plays. And we had a freshman receiver, Matt Hothusen from just here in Wichita to come in, and a guy that we were going to redshirt ended up stepping up making plays. And we were winning the K-Dub game with our third string running back, having 150 yards rushing. And that's just kind of who our team was, is don't flinch mentality, and whoever's out there trusting and believing they're gonna make the play and do their part. And that's what got us through the middle of the season, and then got us through the end to be able to beat a very, very good Kansas Wesleyan team, and then the other guys in front of those guys that we played. But really just come down to believe and trust in each other more than anything else.
Yeah, you mentioned Brad Cagle. At this point, it's a running joke with me and John. There are 3 consistent things in life: death, taxes, and Brad Cagle coming in to beat Kansas Wesleyan. I think that's a 3-year run now for Brad. Just a great presence to have there. I know you're going to miss him offensively. You talk about running a 3-quarterback system at a necessity. I think, if I remember correctly, I think this is the 2nd year in a row you've done that. We did talk about it last year. You're going to miss Cagle and Barnes this year, but you are bringing back Yam, and you've got a couple of folks that you're going to be missing. like Jackie Coleman, but you've got Samara Hunter, who you mentioned going off for 150, basically half the season total there against Kansas Wesleyan, and Martez Jones with 6 touchdowns and a kick return touchdown for you on the season. Talk to me about how next man up actually can help you the next season when it comes to filling those holes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing there is when those guys get an opportunity to play when they're not expecting to play, and you're still, productive and competitive, and that just those kids, gain so much more experience, playing live reps as opposed to, being on the practice squad or whatever, work teams and stuff like that. So, a guy like Martez, it just took him a little bit to get going. I mean, he's a phenomenal football player, and he got hurt in our K-Dub game. If we would have had him in the Benedictine game, that would have been nice to have. He broke his hand, and
Ooh.
as a running back, you kind of, be able to hold on the ball and all that. That was a little rough, but yeah, I mean, just those guys I mentioned. Thomas Sham played in the playoff game against Marion and about won the game for us. A couple years ago, and so that stretch when Luke was down and Brad's hurt and banged up. Brad got banged up in the MAC game. Thomas was able to win us a couple games and. Played really good against Bethel. Just missed a few reads. If he makes a couple plays there, I think we have a chance to beat those guys as well. But so especially at quarterback, when you have 2 or 3 guys that play for you, it just makes it going into the fall or this spring and going into the fall. At least we've got some experience coming back there, even though we graduate 2 seniors. So that definitely helps, and we'll have we have a kid from Bigsby, Oklahoma. They're powerhouse and football down there, and he'll be a really good, phenomenal player for us. I think at quarterback, we'll see how his spring goes. But and he actually played a little bit, with being able to redshirt after playing a couple games and still redshirt. So even that a guy like him got a chance to play a little bit, but it's just. Leads to some experience. Next man up gives you an opportunity to play, and when you get returners coming back, that's done that. I mean, it's going to make things a little bit better when you lose some good players like a Brad Cagle. So we'll see.
Yeah, usually when I do these and I look. And I kind of dissect the roster on my show notes. I usually find that that most teams, the overwhelming majority of teams, are losing more talent on one side of the ball than the other, and it's going to be a little bit of a struggle until that side of the ball kind of catches up. Man, in this case, it's pretty much even all the way down. You're gonna be missing Lake Hoffman and 400 yards out of your tight end. You're returning a quarterback. You're returning a couple of running backs, a 500-yard receiver, your receiving leader. You're returning a D lineman in Shane Rodriguez, a couple linebackers between Josh Carter and Cameron Cornelius. Talk to me about the entire team and competing for those positions and being able to have so many positions open across the board and not just mainly on one side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to some people benefited from COVID and some people didn't, and we were one of those teams that have. I mean, we've been pretty old. Guys take advantage of their 5th year. A Drew Smith, a Brad Cagle, a Luke Barnes. Those guys. All Riley Havard. Was a really good player for us on defense, and so then you kind of for that this year, you're like, okay, we've got everybody back. And then, we're sitting here in the thick of recruiting right now, and you don't have all those guys back. So it goes back to, it's nice that we've had some guys play when those guys have been hurt. But this spring will be interesting. We're going to have about 101 guys here this spring competing. I know that number because I just looked at it when I left work today, of guys coming in, transfers coming in, and returners, and making sure everybody's set. We start classes up on Monday. So at this, it makes it fun too, because, we like to compete at practice, and our guys, I think that's been a big benefit for us, is we compete throughout the year. And so I think they'll be very excited. We've got some young guys have kind of gotten a little bit their feet wet, and, they kind of see that, hey, if I have a good spring and, I, get a little bit more involved in knowing the offense and the defense and all those things, they'll have a chance to play. And we've got some good young players. That, like I said, the league's gotten so much better. So in the end, you can't really worry about anybody else but yourself. But I know it's going to be a very, very big challenge for us this next year to be where we've been the last few years, for sure.
So you touched on it a little bit earlier. I'm gonna go in a little bit more into it now. I'm gonna give you a magic wand. And with this magic wand, you have the power to make changes on how teams qualify for the playoffs, how champions are determined, how you make some tiebreakers, because we both know there was a little bit of heartburn this last year on Bethel being a one-loss team left out, and I've had other coaches sit here where you are and tell me that St. Thomas should have made it. I do tend to agree with them on that one as well. But I mean, there's only 16 spots, and with how we're set up, you're always going to have someone with some heartburn. So tell me, what are you doing with your magic wand?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of got to be a little bit careful because I'm on the executive committee, so
Okay.
on what I say and don't talk about, or what talk about. But anyhow, no, I think, it comes down to money. But if we could expand the playoffs, I mean, to 20 or 24, or, the NAIs, in most sports, I think it's somewhere around, I don't know the exact number, I should know, but maybe around 20% of schools make the playoffs, in baseball or basketball or whatever. In football right now, we have about 100 football schools that play, that participate in football, and we're at 16%, so we're a little bit behind what the NAI's percentage is, if that makes sense. And so I think that would, if you could get it to 20 or to 24, then those other one-loss teams, or those teams that are on the bubble, they get in. You don't have to. I know, again, then there's going to be, there's the 20, there's always going to be one more. But at least, especially in a situation in the KCAC where we ended up with a 3-way tie, and we use a point system. I think I like that. At least it's not based off the coaches poll or the rankings, and it's just who beat who and by how much. And I think that's a pretty good system. There's probably some other tiebreakers that may be better, but it seems to be fairly well for us. I mean, but that's what it comes down to. If you had a magic wand, you just expand the playoffs, and but there's money involved. I mean, the cost of travel and flying teams and all that. I mean, I've sat in on those meetings, and and even, I know the NAI has done a great job of trying to, reimburse those schools that have paid a lot of money to get in the playoffs. At the same time, the money's, they only have so much money to do that with. And so, I know it's cost our school quite a bit extra money for us to make in the playoffs the last few years, money that, that's not in your budget, that you don't expect to necessarily spend. So, I think that's the ultimate answer, I guess. I don't know if that's the ultimate answer, but that's what you would probably need to do to get those teams that are those bubble teams in. I mean, that's, there's really no other way to do it that I can tell or I can see. It's just tough when we basically just play within our league. There's not a lot of out of conference play. And so who's to say who's better between, Southwestern, Avila, Bethel, Texas Wesleyan, um, St. Thomas, all those teams that were right there when you don't play in each other's conferences. And so, I think you just got to expand the playoffs.
Yeah, I that's the only easy answer that I can find, and and I know you're probably gonna not be able to say much, and that's fine. I understand. But me sitting there and turning the problem over in my head, if you go to 20, you by necessity have to have another week of play. Um, any way you slice it. And I wonder if the best option there isn't to enforce or suggest that all leagues utilize a week 0 game to catch that extra week, so you're not getting into Christmas and New Year's with your national championship game.
Yeah, you kind of cut out there a little bit. Sorry, I didn't quite get all that, but you have the bye week before. Yeah. If that's what you're saying, I couldn't quite hear you, but you have the bye week before the national championship.
Oh, you're right.
So you have that extra week. You just wouldn't have the 2-week layoff before, if you want to try to keep kind of the same schedule.
Yeah, I was also kind of thinking about the week 0 game and highly encouraging all conferences to take advantage of week 0. So, because I think I like the bye week there. I think it creates a better product for the national championship, giving the coaches a couple of weeks to go through.
Yeah, and you could even look at pushing that game back and maybe not playing it on a Saturday, maybe a Monday night game or something. Go 10 days instead of 14 days or something like that. But
yeah,
well, I think we are going to discuss it this coming weekend. It's on one of our topics of discussion, and I think there's been a committee put together and all these things that it's definitely they're looking at it for sure.
And that's definitely good to know, because I do trust the home office wanting to put the best product on the field, and trust the coaches in wanting to do the best thing by the kids and by the schools. One of the other questions I've kind of been asking everybody, besides that one, which might be a moot point after next week, who knows? But we both know, if you're not improving, if you're not getting better, you're falling behind. That's just how life is. It doesn't matter whether it's a football program, or whether it's your own professional development, or whether it's your walk with Christ. Either way, if you're not improving, you're falling behind. So what area of your program, whether it's on the field or whether it's something off the field, would you most want to see improvement in 2023?
That's a good question. I think as coaches and as our staff, we sit down and talk about that very thing a lot. Is that you break down your different areas of socially and emotionally and physically and all those things that go into an individual college student, and top of that, an athlete. What are areas that we can help that individual improve, to help our team improve. So I think you still try to hit all those areas if you can. I think you go and from our experiences of just going to playoffs and playing against a Marian and a Benedictine, by all means, we don't look the part. Our kids are tough and play hard. You know, what scenario we could prove on there is, hey, maybe we need to get in the weight room more, or get bigger, or stronger, or whatever. But at the same time, I don't think that's been something that's necessarily got us beat. I think, but that's an area that you would say, hey, we gotta make an improvement in this area. To answer your question specifically, I think you just got to do a great job of making sure you're covering all your areas of, what are the individual needs of your student athletes, and then making sure that you're good in all those areas. And then in the team setting of, the big one is that, that brotherhood, or whatever you want to call it, that for us is just family, of how can we grow that part of it, the leadership, the tightness, the bonds, all those things. I think that will win you more games, probably more than anything else. So that would probably be, if there's one thing, I would say we would continue to focus on that part of it, being disciplined and all those things.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you coming on the show tonight. And I know we look forward to seeing the KCAC, the new look, the two-division KCAC coming up this year with Evangel added in. And, hopefully with two divisions, we won't have as much KCAC playoff drama as we've had the last couple of years. But you never know.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming on, and we look forward to seeing y'all in 2023.
You bet. Thanks, Corey. Thanks for having me.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the NAIAFBALL Podcast presented by AdCraft USA. Be sure to contact them for all your custom apparel, merch, and uniform needs. Thanks also to Leading Edge Fundraising for their support of the podcast. If you enjoy the show, subscribe to the podcast as well as to our YouTube channel. Leave us a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. As always, if you'd like to support what we do, head over to patreon.com/NAIAFBALL and become a patron. We can't do what we do without our sponsors and listeners like you.